what can we expect for IU the rest of the way out? They lose last night to Iowa, just didn't look good. They got Michigan State on the horizon. They got the Big Ten tournament. Are they about ready to play themselves out of the NCAA tournament? We'll get the thoughts of editor and co-founder of InsideTheHall.com, Alex Bozich, on the Menard Studio Hotline here in just a second. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 and online, ESPNEvansville.com. We're powered by Interstate Batteries. You'll find them at 6505 Interchange Road, 2 blocks north of Morgan and Burkhart. Or you can call them 812-473-5018. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. Let's bring in Alex on the Menard Studio Hotline, editor, co-founder of InsideTheHall.com. Alex, thanks for the time today. You watched that game last night. What went wrong? Did they look to you like they just weren't wanting to be there to some degree?
I don't know if I would say they didn't want to be there. What I wrote today was basically going into the game. I mean, you know, the days before the press conference where Tom Crean and Yogi Ferrell basically said that they realized the importance of the week ahead. You know, that Yogi especially realized that this was obviously a game they needed to win. And then to say those things 2 days before and then to come out and play like that, there's some disconnect, at some level between, you know, the performance and really coming out and playing with the urgency that they needed to have. And they just didn't really I'm not going to say they didn't play hard, because some guys did and some guys played well at times, but for the most part, that's just not really the type of performance that's going to beat even a middle of the road Big Ten team at home, let alone a team like Iowa that came in with 4 straight wins and was also playing for its 20th win and trying to wrap up a tournament spot. And I think it was just disappointing to see the lack of urgency and the lack of energy at times in a game that really Indiana really needed to win to kind of solidify its tournament hopes. And it really now has kind of dug itself a little bit of a hole that it's going to have to get out of to kind of shore things up here the rest of the way.
Well, you watched the game last night. So what was it that Iowa did, or was it more of an Indiana kind of beating themselves? I mean, the Iowa game plan obviously worked, whatever that plan was. And again, IU relying on the three-pointers. I know they went for over 10 behind the arc last night, but that seems to be the kind of live by the sword, die by the sword mentality for this team, that if it doesn't work out for them, then they're kind of screwed, so to speak. What did Iowa do that IU just wasn't able to get around?
Well, the main thing that Iowa does well when they're winning is they get to the free throw line a lot. They dominated that aspect of the game last night. Indiana had, once again, just like the Northwestern game, not to the same extent, but a long stretch without a field goal, which you can't go 7 or 8, 10 minutes without a field goal and expect to win against a good team. And last night, the offense, which has been kind of the calling card why this team, when it has been winning games, has been able to do so. And last night the offense was, I think it was the second worst performance that they've had in the Big Ten season as far as an efficiency standpoint last night. So I didn't actually think Iowa played that great. I thought they had a lot of sloppy turnovers. I thought they did a poor job finishing around the rim in the first half. I thought Indiana was fortunate to only be down 4 at halftime. And then Iowa played a little bit better in the second half, and Indiana didn't answer the challenge. And what you saw was, that's a pretty convincing a win for Iowa to come into, the Assembly Hall and beat Indiana like that. But I think it had a little bit to do with Iowa playing well in the second half, but it had more to do with Indiana just not being able to keep them off the free throw line. And offensively, they just really couldn't muster anything up with any consistency.
Well, when you start looking down the line, when these because right now looking at it, IU is probably not, if you're a gambling man, you're not going to put money on IU winning the Big Ten tournament, not with Wisconsin there and the way
right.
IU's playing right now. So you're looking at an at-large bid, and you just said to yourself, this is a huge win for Iowa, and I totally agree with you on that. And with these two teams record-wise so close, this is the kind of game that maybe when the committee is sitting in the room and they say, well, we'll go 4 or 5 deep in the Big Ten, and it comes down to an Iowa or an IU getting that at-large bid, that could have knocked IU out of the tournament, could it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got the Michigan State game. If they win that, I think they're in pretty decent shape as far as getting in. But like you said, that's kind of a game where when you're looking at teams with similar resumes, I'm not sure how much the committee would look at a head-to-head thing, but they're going to look at kind of the whole body of work. And, Indiana at this point, if you're matching them up against Iowa, their non-conference is maybe a little bit better, but the way Iowa's played in the Big Ten has obviously been better. And, Indiana just, at one point, I think the most disappointing thing for a lot of people is at one point this was a team that was 5-1 in the Big Ten. Now they've dropped 7 of 11 overall. And even if they do make the tournament, you just don't get the feeling that this team's going to be able to, they haven't won consecutive games in over a month. So really the upside of them getting into the tournament, it's fair to ask, do they have what it takes to even win a game if they're able to get there? So there's just a lot of negativity as far as how this team's been playing lately. Obviously, the fans kind of voiced some of their frustrations last night in Assembly Hall. The turnout wasn't great, and there was some boos and things like that. So things definitely kind of going in the wrong direction towards the end of the season, and that to me doesn't really set things up to make any noise in the tournament or even the Big Ten tournament.
It's Ford and O'Brien on ESPN Evansville 105.3 on our line, ESPNEvansville.com. Talking to Alex Bozich, editor and co-founder of InsideTheHall.com. Alex, early in the season, there was a lot, or actually preseason, there was a lot of talk if Crean is the guy for the job. Well, you start losing games down the stretch at home. The Hoosiers don't lose at Assembly Hall. I mean, it's almost set in stone, but obviously they're losing now at home. And with those losses combined with coming down the stretch here, they don't make the NCAA tournament. People are going to want his head again, are they not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm already hearing it on Twitter and Facebook and, all the other kind of social media venues that we use to kind of disseminate information and, our comments on our site. This is probably as bad as it's been, and it's understandable that fans are looking at it with, I think, a fair perspective. I mean, we're in year 7 here of his tenure, and last year was kind of looked at as maybe like a transition rebuild type of year when they didn't even make any postseason at all. But the expectation is in Indiana is not just to make the tournament, but to be able to advance in the tournament, have a chance to go to a Final Four, at least every couple of years. And it just feels like this season started out so promising, and then to kind of falter this way down the stretch, to not make the NCAA tournament when a month ago it looked like the team was pretty much a lock. That's got to fall at the feet of the person in charge of the program, I feel like.
Well, if let's say they get rid of him, depending on how the rest of this season plays out. I mean, could they make the tournament and be bounced in the first round and still people calling for his head, or do you feel like fans understand that, hey, at least this year we made the tournament. We may not have made it deep, but at least we made it in. Does it need to be that for that to kind of calm down with the fan base?
I don't know, because I can't, obviously every fan kind of looks at it differently, but I can just tell you from the sense I'm getting, people I'm getting emails from, tweets from, just messages from in general, that there's a large segment of fans who I feel like are going to really have to see something down the stretch to maybe salvage the season, to kind of get a positive feel back. But I feel like a lot of fans are really kind of set in stone that they don't feel like this is the long-term solution, and they're going to want to change no matter what. So it's a difficult situation when you figure in, the buyout and things like that, and who they'd be able to go out and get, things like that. But it just feels like overall there's obviously a lot of fans that are frustrated and want to see the program do more. And that's the thing about Indiana fans. They care so much about the program, and they're not going to just sit there quietly when they feel like things aren't going right. They're going to be heard, and that's what they've kind of, the fact that there was boos last night in the Assembly Hall, that was really the first time I'd heard something like that this season. And it kind of, in a spot like that where they really need to win, and down the stretch, once it became reality that it wasn't going to happen, I think fans just kind of were voicing their frustration, and we'll kind of see where it goes from here. It's definitely not a cut and dry situation.
Alex Bozich from InsideTheHall.com joining us on the Menard Studio Hotline. Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3 and online, ESPNEvansville.com. In these tweets and comments and emails that you're receiving through your site, has there been any names that fans would rather see as their head coach? Because my thought has always been, if you get rid of Tom Crean, surely they'll find somebody else. But what other options are out there? Are there names that some fans are throwing to you like, we'd love to have this guy if we could get rid of Tom Crean?
Yeah, I mean, people. I don't want to go into specifics just because I don't want to seem like I'm speculating on anything like that. But obviously, there's fans that have names that they feel like would be better suited. The way I've always looked at it is Indiana's kind of been after Knight that that obviously they made the change to Mike Davis and that didn't work out long term. Then they did Sampson. And that obviously kind of blew up in their faces. Now they're in year 7 of Crean, and if they make a change, to me, this is my opinion, it's got to be something that they know is the right move. I mean, you don't just make a move for the sake of it, but you also can't allow your program to continue on with such a, with a fan base that's divided or a fan base that's not going to support the team.
Right.
And when you kind of look at some of the things I tweeted last night, there was a couple of pictures I tweeted out there of like the stands of Assembly Hall with, 10 minutes before tip and then late in the game when fans are leaving, things like that. I mean, those are things that have to be looked at and considered too in the equation. So like I said, not a cut and dry situation. There's a lot of things to consider, and it's just a kind of the whole thing, how it's unfolded here, because I think we talked about a month ago, and at that point we were talking, can Indiana get a 5 or a 6 seed? Now we're talking about them, barely even maybe making the tournament and talking about the coaching future. So it's kind of been a surprising turn of events.
Yeah, it's gotten kind of ugly here over the last week or two. All right, one more real quick. We had this discussion earlier in the week when we're talking about Kentucky and John Calipari, and he's a guy that either you love, and if you're a Kentucky fan, you love him. If you're not a Kentucky fan, you hate him. Let's just play a little game here. If he were to become available, would you take him as IU's coach?
Oh, man. Wow, that's all you, Alex.
And you don't have to answer either.
Wow.
That's fine.
Yeah, I didn't say it.
I mean, here's what I'll say about Calipari. He's the most polarizing coach in college basketball.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
The thing that impresses me the most about him is that a lot of people talk about all the talent he has, but there is something to the fact that he can take the guys that he gets every year. And I know 2 years ago it didn't work out the best at winning NIT, but for the most part, every other year, he's able to take those egos in, he's able to break them down, he's able to mold them into a team. And I think that's the most impressive thing that he does on a consistent basis. Obviously, I'm not just being an Indiana guy, I'm not his hugest fan, but I do have a lot of respect for kind of the way he's able to do that on a year in and year out basis. And to me, there's no question this year they're the best team in college basketball. They got a chance to go undefeated. So he's got my respect as far as what he's able to do as a coach.
Hey, you just remember when you go to thinking about that, O'Brien asked that question, not Ford. All right,
I just throw it out there, just having a little fun, just having a little fun. Alex, we appreciate the time. He is the editor, co-founder of InsideTheHall.com. Give him a follow as well on Twitter at Inside the Hall. Good stuff again. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the time. I know we kind of reached out late in the day, and we appreciate you making time for us. Hopefully we can talk again soon.
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
All right, thanks, Alex. Take care.